Well, we'll get started, you guys. So my name is Joelle Fontaine, for those of you who don't know me, and I am the Managing Director over at the Fairmount Innovation Lab. The Fairmount Lab, we are a co-working space in Upham's Corner, but also a resource for small businesses, freelancers, social, creative entrepreneurs, artists, makers, all of that. So we do a lot of this kind of programming. We ran this series, we started this series during COVID and really got a great feedback from it. So we wanted to bring it back. Val, who was just speaking, you guys are able to take this workshop for free because it has been sponsored by Upham's Corner Main Street. So I'm just gonna give Val a few minutes. Val, if you just wanna talk about Upham's Corner Main Street and what you guys do.
Sure, no problem. Thank you, Joelle. And hello again, everyone. My name is Val Daly, and I'm the Executive Director of Upham's Corner Main Street, which is located in Upham's Corner right next to the Strand Theater. We've been around for close to 25 years, I believe. And what we do is mainly help support a lot of the local businesses in the district. We are a small nonprofit 501(c) organization, so we partner with a lot of different organizations in the community and outside of the community, and one being the Fairmount Innovation Lab with Joelle and her team to provide services and resources to entrepreneurs and small businesses. What we mainly do, just briefly, is we actually, since our organization is very small, what we try to do is really talk with a lot of the local businesses in the district and artists who may not have a local a brick and mortar location, just to kind of understand their needs and their challenges. And based on their needs and challenges, we try to partner with a lot of organizations. For example, with the City of Boston, we partner with new signage, storefront renovation, and so forth. And recently, Loan Capital, we partner with Dorchester Bay for Loan Capital, as well as other organizations. We also partner with consultants, legal consultants, and it runs a gamut. There's a lot of different resources, but we love partnering with all of our partners, including Fairmount Innovation Lab. They are really great in terms of providing workshops as entrepreneurs, and we just wanted to just continue to be a part of their journey by providing services or resources to you guys and all the other artists. So we thank you for joining this workshop, and we hope to have many more in the months to come. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Val. Thank you for being here. Thank you guys for being here. You guys are going to get a lot of great information tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Wendy. So Wendy is one of my good friends. And my other hat is that I am also an entrepreneur. I am the CEO of a brand called I Am Creole, a women's high fashion line. And Wendy has been a partner for many years, has helped me with my brand strategy. She is an amazing brand strategist and artist, multidisciplinary. She does pretty much everything. So I'm really looking forward to just like learning from her tonight. Usually it's, I just let her do her thing, but really kind of understanding the way she thinks and the way to really strategize to maximize our sales and to really give a great brand identity. So Wendy, I'm just gonna pass it on over to you and you can tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Wonderful. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Joelle. Thank you, Fairmount Lab. Thank you, Upham's Corner. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to kind of walk you guys through a journey. We're going to get a little personal. There'll be a lot of really good conversations that will spark here. I would love to learn a little bit more about yourselves and what really brought you here today and what kind of projects that you're working on. We'll start off very simply. I have a little presentation for us to go through where I can talk a little bit about my company and what we do, introduce you to the team, and how, just so you guys can really see how we went from taking a very personal story and making it into what you see today. And we hope to be able to have you walk away with at least 3 takeaways. And those takeaways are tools to really build yourself and your identity and finding the home within you, not something that you have to create or cultivate outside of yourself to share with the world, and how that actually increases everything else, right? I think a lot of the times we think what we see in the digital world, we kind of have to mirror that. Rather, tonight we'll talk about how we could use that data as insight, but not necessarily as your strategy. It's insight to develop and strengthen your strategy. Observing how other people are, how other people do their brands, how other businesses work. These are all insights, but it doesn't necessarily mean we have to copy, because we are our own copies, right? And so we'll talk a little bit about that data analysis. We'll talk a little bit about creating effect. Like, how do you translate who you are now to the rest of the world? What is the art of storytelling, right? How do you share your story so that you can make an impact? And then I'll close out with showing you a little bit of tools and tricks that me and my team use once we actually are ready to execute all of the ideas and concepts that we've curated. How does that sound, everybody? Sounds good. You can, okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. We're gonna get started. So before I share my screen, actually, I wanna talk to you a little bit about MindArt and who we are and what we're doing at MindArt. So let's see. So MindArt is a creative research lab. I am the founder of MindArt. We're a creative research lab turned agency, and we use art, design, and therapy to explore, express, and release subconscious programming. This process of renewal, it comes from our mantra, which is create for you. And I'll talk a little bit about where that stems from. But our research stems from a place of science, thought, and exploration. And I'm sure right now you're like, wow, this sounds like super deep. It sounds like a lot of science. It sounds like a lot of therapy. That's because it is. What we do with brands and people and artists and clients all stems from a place of wellness. We believe that the old way of marketing or the old way of building your identity, which is, again, often caught up in copying, that way is dead. We believe that wellness, where you can actually take your time and steady and slow growth, actually leads to quicker results. And we take pride in that, right? And so our mission ultimately is to create a world where the language of art transforms people. We believe that whether you're an artist, whether you're a businesswoman, whether you're a businessman, a technician, art, once understood, can be used as a tool for transformation. And so we'll talk a little bit about how we use that transformative tool and transfer it into programs and curriculums and services that we offer, right? So, we're big on destigmatizing and neutralizing and normalizing the conversations of mental health and behavioral health, even in business. Even when you're getting ready to start something, we believe that mental health is a huge part of that. A lot of the times mental health is not spoken about in the world of business. And it said you have to be cutthroat, you have to be a shark, you have to know how to do this and that. And just so you guys know, I'm an artist. I also went to business school. I have sparked and started several businesses, but I'm also a yogi, right? So there's all these multifacets of me. I'm very multifaceted, pardon. And I've had to find the merger. How am I able to go to yoga and understand flow, but then when I'm in a business meeting and I'm the youngest person in the room, and I'm a woman of color, how do I operate in that room while staying true to myself? Who am I really? Right? And so we said, okay, we can probably transfer this concept to business. So the programs and the curriculums and the services that we have to offer, they really do demonstrate this like local and global impact of this comprehensive and integrative belief system that we have in terms of building brands and brand development. And it is fueled by a holistic approach to therapy. So everything that we're going to go through today is backed by consciously being aware, staying aware, and executing in that awareness. So, as a lab, we use art by the design of therapy to create curated experiences from the minds of revolutionary innovators. We believe all of you who are online right now are revolutionary innovators. You have some concept in your brain right now. Maybe it's been birthing for a while, maybe a few years. Maybe you're not sure what's the next step to do to get it out. Maybe through this pandemic, through this time that you've had alone, you've had a lot of time to think. It's possible that your creative dreams from childhood are coming back up. We believe that you're revolutionary. and the first step is to believe that the concept that you have in your brain is also revolutionary. You're an innovator, right? And so as a studio, we take all of these insights gained from all of these innovators that we've been working with, and we turn them into processes. We turn them into programs. We turn them into services, and we turn them into steps. And so I'll tell you a little bit about the founding story. And this really dives into who I was really. I want you to know how I've become Moma, right? There's Wendy, there's Moma, there's Fearless, you'll see here. I've gone through many identities. I was Fearless at one point, which Fearless carried me through. I am now Moma, but my given name is Wendy Michel Dupu. So I began my foray as a creative social scientist at the start of the digital marketing era in 2009, pardon. So almost a decade ago, 10, 11 years ago. And I was studying painting at Massachusetts College of Art and Design. Before that, I was a dancer for about 10 years. So I've definitely have had dib and dabbled in creative expression my whole life. But once I got to Parsons later on in my life, this was after my travels to Germany, I realized that, wow, I needed to I had a knack for business, but I wasn't really sure, because I don't know if anyone else is here, but as an immigrant, I was born in Haiti. My family was like, okay, you're going to be a doctor. This is the path that you're going to be on, and this is how it's going to be. And I'm like, wait, but I want to dance, I want to draw, and I want to paint. And they're looking at me like, okay, so how are you going to make a living off of that? And I had to truly explore, like, wait a minute, I'm not really sure, but I know that I can't get away from this, because when I'm in this type of job, I feel the energy draining. I don't feel as stimulated. Right? And so I had to find a way, okay, how is there a merger? Is there a way for me to take what's making my heart beat and also make it make sense logistically in the system, in the world that we're living in? So I decided to travel. I decided to explore. And one of the main pieces, the first piece of advice is, like, in terms of understanding who you are, it's an exploration of self. One of my mentors, Johnette Ellis of Mother Mercy, has a huge project, and it's all about how process is the project, right? And so when it comes to exploring and understanding who we are, if we can explore ourselves and what we like to do and what our interests are without judgment, oftentimes we're led to the solutions. So I explored and I traveled the world. I went to Germany, I went to China, and I went to Hong Kong. In Germany, I learned how to create from a place of spirituality, because that's important to me. In China, I learned how to curate a team of multidisciplinary artists. And then in Hong Kong, I learned how to execute all of my talents in one. I took those three experiences, which seemed very unrelatable, right? So a lot of the world said to me, what are you doing? You're painting, you're dancing, you're curating, you're traveling. It doesn't make sense. And when I stepped back and started exploring or observing myself from a non-judgmental point of view, I started to see all of the lines come together. Everything in my world map began to make sense, right? It said I had experience in curation. I had experience in working with people. I had experience in love and passion for the arts and for business. What do I do with that? So I literally Googled it. It led me to Parsons. Parsons had a brand identity course and a brand identity major, actually, that was all about brand strategy and business solutions. There, I started to really put together, okay, there's a way for me to bring design in. There's a way for me to bring critical thinking in. There's a way for me to understand and learn business. By the spring of 2017, as I was picking up business development, learning how to put my art and turn it into a business, I was at my third art showcase. And I said, wow, what if we could use art to educate and talk about mental health in communities? And the next few questions were, okay, how do we do that as a social enterprise? How do I use art as a way to talk about mental health in communities? And that means in businesses, that means in shops, that means in yoga studios, that means everything, right? And so this is how we were able to do it. At Mind Art, let's see. We offer 3 categories: solutions, services, and programs. We have our Mind Art Creative Wellness Solutions. We have our Mind Art Client Success Services, and then we have our Mind Art Artist Development Programs. The 3 solutions that you see here are all 3 parts of my passion. I am passionate about wellness. I am passionate about client work, and I am passionate about developing artists. 3 things that I love to do, 3 things I can't live without, 3 things that I had to ask myself, how do I turn this into a service? How do I want to communicate this to other people? And which way do I do it that's the most effective? Okay, so today you're kind of falling into our services. We're going to dive into our Mind Art Client Success Services, and I want to introduce the team a little bit as well. And I'm not sure if they can mute themselves at the moment. Let's see. Hey, Elle, can we hear you?
Oh, yo. Can you hear us?
Yes, we could hear
All
you.
right. Hi, everyone. Yes.
So,
Hello, guys.
all going to come together, but I wanted you guys to meet the team that is executing the 3 main takeaways that we're going to be diving into today, right? That's digital solutions, that's thinking about brand strategy, and that's thinking about how you're showing your brand strategy online. So Elle, if you want to introduce yourself briefly, that would be awesome.
Hello, everyone. I'm Al. I'm the COO of Mine Art, and I am also the project manager of our Max, the Mine Art Client Success Services. And I have with me here Bryle, my partner here in the Philippines, who is running the Pintado brand. They are the one who's hiring people for us in Mine Art that help us execute those brand strategy, web development, um, content creation, and other digital media services that we offer at Mine Art.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Elle. And so right now we have a team in the Philippines that's stacked with content creators, data analysts, and executionists. I'm not sure where you are at in your brand, and we're going to dive in and do a little icebreaker. But if you're at a place where maybe you're just figuring out who you are, or maybe you've already been there, you kind of have this idea that you've been pushing out, you have no idea how to push it out. The one thing that you're going to absolutely need is these departments: IT, social and digital media curation, and then execution and management. The team that you just met overseas, that's where all those 3 departments live. And we offer those to clients. We're going to teach you and break down like 3 main takeaways from those departments that you can use for development of your brand. Now, I'm gonna go back to sharing the screen. We'll dive into a little bit of the work that we produce, right? So we're producing print collateral, digital collateral, art and design collateral. We're producing monthly publications. We work with magazines. We work with corporations such as Networks and BET. We are developing social and digital media solutions for businesses such as banks. We have digital solutions for small businesses, or we also have digital solutions for up and coming artists and clients who are really looking to share their story. And so we'll dive into brand identity. How are we able to create all of these beautiful solutions? We have to kind of take a step back. We're seeing the execution, we're seeing the final results, but how did we get there, right? And so one of the first things that we want to talk about is discovering your why. Does anyone know, and I can kind of probably go ahead and you can ask to unmute yourselves. I would love to hear some responses here. Does anyone know what their why is? Why do you do what you do? Why do you love what you do? Why are you who you are? Let's see if anyone here.
I'll go ahead and jump in if you can hear me okay.
Yes, and if you can introduce yourself, that would be
I'm Kiana Agbai. Let me know if it sounds funny because I'm on Bluetooth trying to block out the children. But I'm in Hyde Park. I run Trifecta Media Group. It's a marketing, graphic design, and consulting company for small businesses. And I think my why is definitely my children, the people that I'm trying to sound block out right now. But I'm in the midst of remote learning, and the challenge is how to juggle all of it. So I like the ability as a business owner to be flexible for their schedule, for the needs, especially with what's going on right now with remote learning. So the why is definitely intersecting with my entrepreneurship journey right now.
And I have just a simple follow-up question. Thank you for sharing. How do you think you got to your why?
I used to be corporate, so I used to work in the ad agency world, and it wasn't conducive to family life. And it just became a matter of priorities. Kind of, it sounded like similarly in your story when you were realizing that environment didn't quite mesh with your goals and your priorities. And so that happened for me about 10 years ago.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Kiana. Thank you for sharing. Do we have anyone else? One more.
Go.
Is that
Taja, yes. So I'm not gonna have my camera on because middle of the day looking a little rough, but it's all right. We'll get through it. But my name is Taja Ricketts. I'm the owner of Satin Kiss Enterprises LLC. It's a sexual health and pleasure lifestyle brand. So my why for starting my business, there are a number of different reasons. For one, I found myself helping others navigate their sexual health journeys. I'd gone through my own process of transformation and exploring sexual shame and healing all of that, and feeling confident in talking about sexuality and wanting to help other people do the same thing. And I found that I was naturally able to do that and be empathetic. People were naturally, speaking to me about these things, and I was able to help them and see actual results in their lives. So I figured, well, I might as well do something with this. I also wanted to change the landscape of sexual health and pleasure products because I noticed that when I started shopping for my own, a lot of them were not body safe. I had to sort and figure out which ones actually were. And then I found that people of color were not often properly represented in the product offerings. So either there would be no people of color represented in flesh tone products, or they would be represented in a lot of stereotypes or tropes that were really problematic. So I decided to say, well, why don't I create what I'm not seeing? So I created a website and so an e-commerce site selling all these products so people can have those tools to do that. And I didn't want to, I wanted to create something for myself. I've always wanted a business. So I figured, now was the time. I left my job, which was literally making me sick from the stress. And I wanted to be creative and use the ideas that I had to build something that I actually enjoyed doing.
beautiful? I'm loving that there's so much commonality between, so far, we're seeing those who have been in corporate or understand it have left to find a solution. It sounds like you, Taja, you've discovered your why. You've then made it to the next step of like, okay, here's how I'm going to activate my why. Now, are there any challenges that you're seeing now that you're in this activation, masterminding stage?
Absolutely. So there are a number of different things. For one, not so much jumped into it, but I took a lot of time to plan it, but I'm running the business solo and building a team, and then also making sure that I have the right creative direction with the business. And then with advertising, like it's really tough to advertise in a lot of traditional spaces because of the content, even though it's more educational rather than explicit. There are still a lot of taboos that keep it from being properly widely accepted. But then, like I said, just in general, figuring out and maintaining one cohesive brand image and making sure that it stays on brand, and then clearly defining what that brand is. It's weird. I didn't want to be the face of it at first, but now that it was like, okay, well, I am the face of it, making sure that I don't take it in the wrong direction, that it's authentic. But at the same time, it is all, again, cohesive.
Yeah, authenticity and cohesiveness, and like it's that transfer, right? Like this is who I am in person, but how do I then translate that? And
Right.
we have something that I call it the mirror effect. And oftentimes what happens is you have this idea, you know who you are, and then the moment that it goes into sharing that, we get lost. There's something that gets lost in translation, and somehow we begin to, perform a little bit. We begin to perform off of expectations. Maybe they're conscious or subconscious expectations. But what's beautiful about the mirror effect, and we'll discuss this a little bit deeper, is that the mirror is how can you actually simply mirror who you are, but just change the medium. The medium is no longer in person, the medium is digital. Oh, okay, so I just have to shift my communication style, but I'm not shifting who I am. I just have to shift a little bit of what I want to be seen, but I'm not shifting my core. And that there's a fine line in between that. So thank you so much for sharing. I love how in depth of your you are within your process, and it's very clear that you're using a very analytic eye, which you're going to talk about as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're at a great place. Okay, so we're gonna watch a little movie. It's just a short clip. I'm not sure if you've seen it before. It's something I bring up all the time at any of my workshops, and it's how great leaders inspire action. And this is Simon Sinek's talk on the why and discovering the why.
Wendy.
Yes.
Before you show your video real quick, I just caught, I think Slick Vic had raised her hand.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Hi, how are you guys?
Slick.
Thank you for creating this amazing workshop, by the way. So hi, everyone. My name is Victoria, also known as DJ Slick Vic. I've been DJing for about 8 years now in Boston and throughout New England. So I've discovered my why, but I think something that I struggle with is executing my ideas. Things that I've had for years, but I think something that I struggle with is being like a one-woman show, not really having a team, but I think that's, I understand like my vision and my purpose for DJing. It's definitely connecting humanity through music. And I think it's a universal language of love, and, I got that piece of it, but as far as like my ideas, that's something I struggle with.
Okay. And so a few questions for you. When it comes to the execution part, what is your end goal? What would you like to see as a result from execution?
Definitely, inspiring the next generation of DJs, specifically women of color, children that want to learn. I went to a music production DJ school, so a vision of mine is definitely like opening up my own, DJ school one day.
Okay. So when one of the first, your first initial response to the question was inspiring female DJs, then that was like a period stop, and then you continued to elaborate. As you elaborated, we got to the real answer, which is to inspire female DJs through which is your vision for a space. One of the main things that I find to be really great is getting very specific with your why, getting very specific with the end result, with the end goal. For example, my goal, yes, I want to inspire artists, but to do what, how, and where, and when, right? As we begin to kind of just really specifically say, I can say, hey, I want to inspire an artist, or I can say, I want to inspire an artist by teaching them how to use their abilities, their natural abilities, and healing themselves, and being able to teach that to a group of people through a creative wellness center. Very specific answer, right? And so again, what is it that you want as a result based off of what your why is? What is the result?
My result is to teach women of color how to DJ.
Beautiful. Through what and how? If you don't know yet.
I don't know yet.
How does that feel to say that?
It feels good, but I definitely understand about being more clear with the vision and the why, and because it can get lost in translation.
Absolutely, because our brain is filled with all of these beautiful ideas. But if we can kind of hone in and get specific about that one, which a little bit of it is fear, which we're going to dive into, the fear of literally explicitly saying what it is, it makes it a reality. I talk a lot about the power of manifestation, and then what happens once the manifestation is here. What do we do once the actual manifestation is here? So when we begin to train our mouths to speak in the way that we want to shift and cultivate the energies around us, then we also have to prepare to train our minds to be ready for what's to come. Because the more, I bet you, Slick, the more you continue to say, I want to inspire more female women to DJ, in a few weeks, you might start, all of a sudden, more women are coming at your feet. Are you prepared for that plan, right? And so we're going to talk about that preparation. But that was beautiful. Thank you for that impromptu.
Thank you.
There. Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to dive in. We'll share the screen again. And then we're going to watch a little video.
How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight? The Wright brothers beat them to it. There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery. And this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked.
There's no audio. Hello, there's no audio.
Because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were
I can
like
hear it now.
a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done. That's how most sales is done. And that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do. We say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs.
I'm seeing that.
And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact,
I'm just noticing, was there sound going in and out, or were you guys able to hear the fullness of that?
There was not sound for about maybe 3-4 minutes, and then you fixed it.
Okay. So did we, if you guys are able to, okay, no audio. This makes me sad. Someone can help me. What was heard? What was taken away? So maybe I can fill in where there was a 0. Did we hear about how people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it?
Yes.
Okay. Did we hear about the actual concepts of the why, the how, and the what? I'm almost assuming that probably just the intro middle was closed out. The main takeaway is that people buy what you do, they don't buy why. They buy why you do it, they don't buy what you do. So if that was heard, then I can probably just kind of step in and take it away. Are we in alignment? Does that feel good? Can I move forward that? I'm sorry about the video issues.
Yeah, you should move forward.
Okay, awesome. So I love that talk with Simon. I have worked with Apple, and I continue to work with Apple for about 10 years now. And I really love working for the company because of the psychology and the knowledge that's provided within that company. We sell tons of products, a lot of products that you're probably watching this workshop on right now. And when I started off as a salesman or saleswoman in the space as a specialist, I thought that I had to know everything about computers. I knew very little. I knew that I was a digital artist, but I knew that I could learn. I knew that I had a zeal for learning. And what was interesting about the company was that they never hired anyone who was actually proficient and experts in computers. They only hired people who loved people. From there, as I was working on the infrastructure, they also taught us to rarely talk about the products. That was always secondhand. They told us that it was very important to understand why a person was at the store. And so when you begin to understand why they're at the store and you understand their heart's desire and their mission and their purpose, you're able to build rapport and find a better solution for them. And that solution so happens to be these products that we have, right? And so it takes a lot of bravery to be able to not necessarily talk about what you're going to do for somebody, but really talk about how you're going to do it and also why you want to do it for someone. It takes a lot of vulnerability, right? It takes a lot of being open. And so I kind of want to set the tone and start us off with a few journal prompts that I think can open up conversation. We'll break up into a little bit of dialogue, and then we'll move forward into how we actually, once we solidify those answers to these questions, how does that translate to a visual brand identity online? So the first journal prompt is, what am I afraid of most? And initially you might be able to, I have this method called stream of conscious writing, and it's really jotting down whatever is coming up in the mind. If you hear this question, what am I afraid of the most, and you're hearing as it relates to business, as it relates to my personal life, whatever it may be, I want you to jot it down. After that, and I'll give like a minute or so, we can break out and talk a little bit about that. We'll do 60 to 120 seconds there. I'm gonna be sharing a little bit of mine as well. So for me, what I'm afraid of most is I know it sounds cliche, but it's really like success, like from being my most authentic and raw self. I'm afraid of like owning exactly who I am fully, in full, so that whatever it is to be may be. I think there's something, and I think some of my the qualities that come up are like, if I'm, if I'm procrastinating on something, or if I'm taking my time with something that I really shouldn't, or there's all of these instances that happen that go back to my fear of what am I afraid of if I did everything the exact way that I wanted it to? What result am I afraid of? And it's this idea of this success, that maybe the success is different than what I'm thinking about. And so if I walk towards that way that I know, and I don't know if this makes sense, if I walk towards the way that I know, it might smear my entire vision of what I thought I wanted. I'll open up the space for, and I'll take, maybe let's do 2 or 3. Feel free to use the raise hand feature as well. I'd love to hear from you guys. The type of workshop and style that I do, a lot of it is conversational, because this is really about you. And so see if we can get any responses in. And on my end, when I'm sharing the screen, I'm a little unable to see everyone, so I'll stop it there. We can get back. What am I afraid of most?
Hi, my name is Al Copeland, and I'm not sure if you saw my thumbs up. I don't see the raise hand feature, so I just figured that I would give a thumbs up. But when I start to think about, I am an artist. My primary art is music, but I am versed in a number of other disciplines as well, mostly in the performing arts and those kind of things. As I started to think about your question, because I'm newly coming out of the fear of abandonment and rejection, my mind automatically like went back to that. But I've worked very hard to get to a place where that's no longer a fear of mine. But then I also started thinking about the fact that I've been putting myself out there for a lot of years now, and I'm still working for a corporate job. And my goal is to one day be able to sustain myself and to become successful, not just financially, because I'm not really motivated by money, but to reach and heal people. That's my ultimate goal, to use my art to heal people and to inspire other people to catch their dreams. And so my fear is that I will not be able to do it full time because I, have to pay bills, and I'm sure everyone on this call can identify with that. But that's my current fear.
Okay. Not being able to do what you love full time because of, the corporate, like the needs of the world, paying bills, right?
Yes.
And you've been working, so would you say that you're kind of wired to a corporate lifestyle? Like you understand that there's that security there?
Yes, there is the security there. So what I've been trying to do is see how I can translate that into my business, because as a musician, it's not only just about putting out music. I've been putting out music for a very long time and have not really made any money. I've yet to turn a profit. I've spent well over about $60,000 to $70,000, putting into my business, but I have not executed a number of other strategies that I know will generate revenue. So it's more about products, physical products, as well as putting the music out.
Let's get into that. Why? So you said that what will generate that revenue. What is that's blocking you from executing what you know?
Okay, so for that, I've had merchandise in the past. I've had my CDs and my T-shirts and stuff like that. Everyone has T-shirts, and I think it was the way that I was going about marketing it. I haven't found a way to market so that people will actually want to buy it. And so since then, I've not really focused on having merch. I've poured money into making music more than anything else, and all the ancillary requirements that go along with that, like the photography, the styling, the makeup, the hair, the video shoots, like all those things that you would find digitally. And so I've been pouring my money into it, so the income is limited because you have your bills and stuff like that. So I guess for me, it's, do I make music or do I make T-shirts? Or do I find some other thing to slap my logo on and make physical products that are going to sell? And then also how to get myself out there more in the public eye. So recently I've decided that I'm going to actually have to start paying for ads on social media, which it makes me cringe because I'm like, I have all these people already following me. You mean to tell me that I have to pay for the people to actually see what I'm doing? So, so I just got to get out of my feelings about that and do what I have to do.
Okay, we're going to dive into that. Thank you for sharing. I have for you is that the fear is not being able to do it full time. You have some strategies that can be effective, but you're trying to find the one that feels harmonious to you. And then also that finding that harmony of what you can actually give to people as a service and not kind of mess up that harmony between what you want to give. Am I following?
Yes, that sounds right.
Okay, we're gonna dive in a little bit. Thank you so much for sharing. I know that Carlene, I saw you have your hand raised as well.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so for mine, I'm very, very early in starting this new business concept. I'm someone who's actually worked in the nonprofit field for many years and actually have been helping lots of entrepreneurs for a while and have never really taken the journey myself. So now I'm starting that endeavor. But one of the things that I'm really passionate about is health, and primarily kind of targeting women, specifically women of color from the diaspora, and just thinking about how we feed and nourish our bodies and how we stay kind of mentally and physically healthy. And I think one of my biggest hurdles or things that I'm afraid of is that I don't know enough about the field, because it's such a broad, like the health field is so large and people have so many different ailments and sicknesses, and you know, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutrition, so how do I really make an impact in that field when I still have so much more to learn?
Okay. So you understand your why. It sounds like now you're trying to get to your how, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand my why.
Okay. And so the fear is not knowing the how, I would say. Okay. Thank you, Carlene. Does anyone else want to share before we go to the next prompt? Okay, so our next prompt is identifying what are my top 3 skills that I'm passionate about. Top 3 skills. So for example, I know that I'm great at designing. I know that I'm great at directing. And I know that I'm passionate about healing people. Top 3 skills that I'm passionate about. This isn't necessarily, this is definitely an internal reflection of what do I do best? What can I do best? And for those who understand their why already, again, this is a workshop where we're really diving into the why and who are you really. But if you understand your why already, we're going to touch on the next steps. Maybe you already have an idea and you've already turned these skills into profitable businesses or profitable concepts, but I would still love you to kind of participate and share a little bit of, and maybe the business that you're forming or the brand that you're forming is not in relation at all to your top 3 skills, but I'm hoping that, that if they're not, we can get to that here. And then we'll do two moments. And if you're there on that, we can go to the third journal prompt, which is how do I want to share those skills with the world? Right? So identifying what's stopping me, what's scaring me, what are my fears, what are my skills, and how do I want to share those skills? What are my fears? What are my skills? And how do I want to share those skills? What are my fears? What are my skills? And how do I want to share those skills? And this might help also gear me towards the conversation, because if I do feel that the room is, we're already here where your why is, can move ahead. But can I hear from anyone who maybe is still in the place of discovering their why? If you're feeling called to share. We have Brandy, we have Megan, Thea, Marie.
What do you want us to share again? Sorry.
In unison, what are my fears? What are my skills? And how do I want to share those skills with the world?
Hi, it's Al again. So I'll dive in since I already talked about my fears. I feel that I feel that I can sing. I hope I can sing. um, I love music, and it's such a healing element. And I know that I've often looked to music to help me get through some of my most challenging times. And people have shared that they've listened to my music and that it's helped them too. So that's definitely, been encouraging to know that I'm actually affecting people and helping people in their lives. I've also, so I guess another skill is healing. And I'm passionate about people and helping them to, navigate their challenges, even if it's just a listening ear, or helping them, think through some things. So singing, healing, and I don't know. I guess, I mean, I've been an admin and, for over 20 years. So I'm very good at those kind of background things, like those smaller details that takes to produce things and, make a event happen, or bring, a package together to present or bring to market. So I'm good at those kind of things as well. And what was the last question again? I'm sorry.
That's okay. How do you want to share those skills to the world?
I feel in a way that I've kind of been doing that already, but I'm not exactly sure um, on more creative ways to execute those skills. So
Okay. And so do you feel that your business currently is that's the question. The phase is like, how am I executing it? How do I translate it? Or do you feel that the skills that you are most passionate about are a part of your business as well?
I'm sorry, can you ask that question again, please?
Sure. Do you feel that the skills that you are passionate about, the skills that you house, are a part of your business and the brand that you're trying to build?
Definitely, definitely.
Okay. So in that, and I'll kind of, since Al, we've been kind of workshopping, this is really cool. We'll kind of walk through what we would do with that, since you've kind of already identified your why, right? You've identified your skill sets, and you've identified that your skill sets need to be in alignment with the execution of this business, right? So you're kind of like this perfect candidate now. So once we get to a place where we're identified their whys, where we process through the questions, where we process through what I'm afraid of, where we process through, okay, what am I good at and how do I want to share it? Now we'll get into these three main pillars that I think are super effective for the next 30 minutes, right, Al? So for your specific company, we have the first step is, how do I translate that why into a digital strategy plan, a digital brand strategy plan? Once I have my digital brand strategy, how do I then translate that to a content strategy plan, right? Once I have my content strategy, how do I execute this digital and content strategy plan? We're going to dive a little bit into what a digital strategy plan is and what it consists of, and why strategy and analyzing data is going to be your best friend. So let's see here. Al, do you have a name for your concept or your brand?
It's Al Copeland Music.
Al Copeland Music, okay. And remind me again what type of music it is that you're making.
So I'm a multi-genre artist. I don't believe in boxing myself into one particular genre. So for marketers and people who strategize, I've spoken to a few of them, and that's a problem for them because they feel like I should be in a particular lane, or I have to be with one specific genre in order for them to be able to market me.
Right. And I feel you 1000%. And so here's a safe space that we're creating. For these questions, I want you to tell me authentically exactly what's coming from your heart, the type of music you make, authentically what's coming from your heart, how you want people to feel when they hear that music, right? And so we'll let go of all of the constraints that have been put in us before. And right now, I just want to hear from your heart, what kind of music do you feel that you're making? And maybe it's a new word, maybe it's not even categorized, maybe it's just Al Copeland music. But yeah, let's, I don't know if that kind of creates this fear for you.
Well, I'm not afraid, and I've been actually putting out different genres of music. So I have some R&B. I grew up, in church singing gospel, but I also have songs like boom bap hip hop. I have funk, I have soul, I have disco, I have rock. I'm getting ready to release some dubstep music shortly. So I'm pretty much, like all over the place when it comes to the music. And I feel good in doing that. I don't feel ashamed or feel constrained because I do what I want to do.
Yes, yes, yes. And then it's hard when you go into the music industry, which is a place that wants to box you up, right? They want to categorize you so they can figure out where they can filter you through. So as a multidisciplinarian, such as yourself, one of the first steps that I would take in developing a digital content strategy, which is a form of strategic management and execution using digital media, right? And so the strategy is a response to a business or brand goal. And your brand goal is to create a sufficient life sharing the music and all of the things that you're interested in. And so it falls into three categories. You're like, I'm a multidisciplinarian. One of the first steps that I would do is, okay, let me identify where are other multidisciplinarians, who are they, and how did they get to where they are? So we call this conducting a competitive analysis, right? Once we identify, let's say three artists that are similar to you, that have seemed to figure it out, that have found the path, we begin to observe them, right? In the competitive analysis, you can conduct a channel audit and a platform selection, which is basically taking a look at their social and digital media platforms that are very successful, right? So let's say another multidisciplinarian is, let's say a Tiana Taylor. She's extremely multidisciplinary, a singer, a dancer, a director, and a musician as well. She's not maybe not necessarily disciplined in many forms of music, but she's disciplined in many forms of crafts. So let's say you decided to choose her as a competitive analysis, and that's a high. That's not someone that's local. When choosing your three target points or competitors, I would make it so that you have one that is a local competitor, one that is, let's say, a regional competitor, and one that's a global competitor. That way you have different tiers that you can work up to, right? Once you've identified, let's say you have your Tiana Taylor and you're seeing like, okay, let me look at her trajectory. What kind of path did she take? Did she take an explorative path? Did she take a path that was logistic? Did she take a path that was consistent? And as you're identifying the path, it's not necessarily a means to copy the path that was taken, but it's more so identifying, ooh, what parts of her path resonate with my soul? What parts of her path call to me that say, I think that might be something that we want to do. So one of the things we always tell brands is like being able to practice and listen and understanding what discerning is and understanding how to follow that creative flow and that creative juice. Once you identify that path and you're doing a channel audit is looking at all of how they translate that path through digital. Maybe it's through social media, maybe it's Instagram. Maybe this competitor is not a person, maybe it's actually a company or a brand, depending on what your business is. We encourage to do a platform selection, identify, okay, my competitors are on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. They're very successful in all three platforms. Do I feel that those are the platforms that I'm going to be the most effective? Do I feel that I need to be on all three of those platforms? How well does my audience relate or interact with my competitors on that platform, right? Once you have that understanding of which platform you're going to use to communicate your why, you can dive into a little bit deeper of how that platform works. Being able to understand, okay, if there's 50,000 people listening to three multidisciplinarians, there must be an interest in people who play different types of music and different types of genre. Okay, how do I find those people? What is it that they're liking? What kind of content are they searching online? What are their interests, right? Once we understand that, we go to where they're at, okay? From there, you can then develop a creative direction or a campaign development. And the reason why we focus so hard on the facets of developing a digital competitive analysis is that instead of creating or making up the data, the internet has all of this information and resource for you to pull from. Your competitor, the person that may be successful at, or the person that your mentor, the person that you're inspiring, is literally telling you all that they're doing through social media. And so oftentimes you have a brand or you have an idea and we're looking at social media and it's hitting us in a way where maybe it's not making us feel secure, or we're starting to think maybe we're not doing something right. But if we can shift how we're looking at social media as a free means of data, as a means of a tool that we can walk away from in order to enhance our strategy and analysis, then it really becomes to be something that is of use. And so 6 ways to include in a digital competitive analysis or brand competitive analysis is identifying 3 of your competitors and those tiers of local, regional, and national or global. Then identify which platforms they're the most active on. Then being able to identify which, let's say if we're focusing on digital, which of their posts are the strongest, or which of their content, let's say, is the strongest. Maybe it's their short films, maybe it's let's say for musicians, it's every time they go on live every Friday doing live music. And I noticed that they have 300, supporters, or that they grew over time, right? Identify which pieces of content are the most engaging and that people are relating to the best way. Then identify which pieces of content are the weakest, right? What did you notice that wasn't working for them, right? Because once you take this and you compare it to, okay, who am I? What platforms am I most active on? What pieces of content are the strongest on my digital platforms? Which pieces of content are not the strongest, are actually the weakest, right? You're actually going to be able to, you're starting to see this data formulate and speak to one another. The 5th tool is identifying the influencer network and brand ambassadors. Is there an influencer network that this competitor has? Do they have call to actions? How are they engaging with their audience on a weekly basis? What's their vibe? How are they communicating that vibe? And then that 6th step is conducting a campaign analysis. What have they released? And how has that campaign been successful? Maybe your favorite multidisciplinarian dropped a project and you're really beginning to observe, okay, how did they release it? Did they release it through digital platforms? Did they make an announcement? Did they just drop it? All of this data that you can then begin to say, okay, I'm going to create a 90-day plan for myself. And in that 90 days, I'm going to try 3 different ways. And those 3 ways are going to mirror some of my competitors. The first way I'm going to try is I'm going to drop a project with an announcement. The second way I'm going to try is drop a project without an announcement. In marketing, we call this A/B testing. So overall, what we're saying about the strength or the ability to develop a digital competitive analysis is that it gives you everything that you need to know about the market. It gives you everything you need to know about the market that you're going into. It's really becoming a researcher. And before we dive into developing creative content, all the cool graphics, what am I going to wear? What kind of photo shoots am I going to have? How am I styling all these looks, et cetera, you need to understand the scope of the land. Doesn't mean you need to become it, but understand where you're at. Understand how these people already move. And I think it was, let's see, it might have been, I don't remember the name of the participant who was saying that they understand their why, but they're a little bit nervous because they don't have enough information about the market. Market research is going to be the first step before we dive into anything.
This is very helpful. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna keep using your beautiful.
Absolutely, thank you.
On this, absolutely. So I have 3 examples here of what we have in a competitive analysis. The first is a perfect customer prospect. We have a social media optimization checklist, and then we have a social media current channel audit. The perfect customer prospect, now whether you're let's say you're a musician, of course, you need to identify, who am I singing to? Who are the people, like, who am I calling to? What is my vibe? What is my voice? And really creating an ideal customer. Maybe you know them, maybe you are, as you mentioned, there's people telling you that your music heals. Talking to them a little bit. Maybe running a week or 2-week sessions, right? The goal is to get as much information from your current audience as possible about what is working. What is it that you're doing that is working, that is keeping them coming back? If you don't have an audience already, then maybe you can actually create that ideal audience. Literally design the perfect person that you want for your brand. For me, I want creatives who are seeking freedom to follow my brand. Those who are radical. I want business women to follow my brand. I want to inspire immigrants to walk into a creative field, right? And so really identifying your perfect customer, your ideal client, your ideal market, target market, really makes it easier for you to define like how I'm going to access them. Because once you identify that perfect prospect, you can identify where do they live, where do these types of people go to, where do they hang out, what do they like to do. And social media optimization checklist is exciting too, because you have to identify, okay, here's my page and then here's my competitor's page. Okay, what's different between that? What am I noticing between in their bio? What am I noticing on their website that is that is getting me to be engaged versus my website doesn't have, right? Social media channel audit, being able to go in and say, wow, I'm noticing that all these posts that let's say these 5 posts about their products perform less than when they're posting selfies. Okay, is that something that I want to mirror? Is there a way that I can merge the two? I'm noticing that facial recognition is really, really popular. People want to see my face. Okay, how do I merge that ability to see my face and also to be able to see what it is that I'm selling or that I'm giving? Next, we can identify what should you include inside a digital channel audit and a platform selection. Those are, the reason why I'm diving into that is because selecting which platform you're communicating on is gonna be important. You wanna identify top social media channels. You wanna identify your target audience. You wanna identify improved key behavioral traits, and we'll dive into that. You wanna identify what your social media platforms and the rules of engagement are into your world, what your distribution cadence is. And you wanna identify and observe which platforms perform the least. And so the social media rules of engagement, what is your cadence? Or do you want to be the type? Because remember, whatever to you, it may be that you're just posting online, but it's actually, you're having a conversation with people and you're making your presence known. We talk about mirroring, right, guys? So if I'm posting, let's say, a content 3 times a day, or I'm sharing content 3 times a day, that's communicating a message of urgency. That's saying, hey, I am here, I am active all the time. That could be the distribution cadence of choice. When I say distribution cadence, it's literally, what is the beat? What is the noise that you want to make online? Do you want it to be fast? Do you want it to be aggressive? Do you want it to be consistent? Do you want it to be slow growth? Do you want to say hi once a week? Do you want to say hi once a month? Do you want to say hi twice a month? Do you want to let people know exactly what you're doing all the time? Do you want to go about it where only sharing the end results? Do you want to share the process? Do you want to let people into the process? Identifying your distribution cadence through which social media channel you're communicating through is so important. Why? Because it goes back to your why. If you are a calm person, if you are a slow talker, if you like to take your time, it might be confusing for people to see that online you speak and move in very aggressive natures and aggressive tones, and you're constantly throwing product down, right? It's not going to mirror one another. You're now projecting another identity outside of yourself. You can do that, but how long will that last is the question that you're asking. So going back to the why, who am I? How do I want to be seen, respected, and heard? And how can I translate that in my business? If what you want is authenticity. We dove into distribution cadence, and then once we identify what our distribution cadence is, maybe you said, you know what, I want really fast growth right now, and I want everyone to know that I am a shark and that I am hungry. I'm going to share 3 times a day, and I want to probably 2 to 3 times a day, which means how much content am I going to create? So once you identify your why, then you identify your what your competitors are doing, then you identify your distribution cadence, how you want to communicate online, then you can go into thinking about content concepts, right? Because you have a foundation now. Maybe there's video concepts, there's graphic concepts, there's photo shoot concepts, right? And you want to ask yourself, how fast would I like to see my growth? Do I want to see my growth in a consistent rate? Do I want to see my slow growth? And I'll show you an example of what I mean by developing that content. If you're looking to move at a very fast pace, and let's say you decided that my cadence online is going to be fast, that means I have to produce content at a rapid speed. Here's an example of a case study that we built. You probably in the category where you are going to have to create, share 2 posts per day, 2 videos per week. That's 60 pieces of content a month. Okay, you have to ask yourself, okay, do I have enough to be able to share that? Do I actually have the resources to share that? And you break that down into a weekly calendar. That's 15 image photography of your product, whatever it is that you want to give and share. That's 15 pieces of video content, right? That's 15 graphics. That's 15 original content photography. This is when I used to work from Instagram. They give insights of like, this is what people want to see. This may change for you after you conduct a competitive analysis, after you conduct and identify, okay, I've identified them in mirrors, like who are the people that I want to kind of emulate or be in the same spaces as. You'll be able to see that, okay, video, graphics, original content, and then product content is the mix. Once you have that mix, then you're probably, and I'll show you some tools and tricks. Once you have that mix and maybe you went out and you shot everything, you got your team, you invested in a team, you got your graphics curated, you have your photography, you have your video. How do I bring that all together? We have this rule called the 70-20-10 rule online, right? The 70-20-10 rule allows you to have a more balanced pace of like putting out content. Maybe you realize, okay, I do want to put 3 points out today, but I don't want to shove product down people's faces because when I'm talking to people in person, that's not what I do. I'm more conversational. Okay, so then how can you break up your content to be about your brand values? How can you break up your content to be about lifestyle and beliefs? How can you break up your content to be more about the products and self-promotion? This creates an ease of a balance, but you're also consistent in that, right? A few tools and apps and resources that really kind of can help. And I'm mostly sharing this because it sounds like a lot of us really know what our why is in this in the group. And so I wanted to dive into, okay, now that you have your why, let's go into execute. Preview is an app. Let's say you already have all the content ready. And we'll talk about what to do if you don't have the content ready. Let's say you have all the content ready and you don't know how to curate it and how to put it out. Preview is an excellent app for digital distribution because it allows you to add in all of the images and videos and graphics that you hired and you had created, and you can actually create your Instagram feed before you share it out. So you can literally drag and drop and curate that beautiful 12 posts, 15 posts before you share it out. What that does, it gives you time to know what you're communicating before you communicate it. Right? The same way in real life, we're constantly thinking about what we're saying before we're doing. It's the same thing with the digital, right? If we have a really oneness understanding of who we are, it's going to be sharing with a quickness. But again, we are communicating each time we make that post, each time we do that stories. It's a brand identity. The same way people are expecting you to be consistent in who you are, or even more transparent in who you are through daily activities and daily actions. The mirror is the same thing in the digital world. The second tool that I want to talk about is the Instagram dashboard. I'm pretty sure you already know about it, but when we talk about competitive analysis and doing analysis on yourself, you can learn a lot about your behavior and what you're providing people through the Instagram dashboard. You go to settings and you're learning a little about where your followers are. You're learning about how active they are, which days they're most active in. So take a little bit of a snag in your own page. What are the people, let's say you have 5,000 followers right now, you have 3,000 or 300. What are those 300 telling you right now about the type of content that you're sharing? What are those 300 telling you right now about what they're looking for? What are the top 3 posts that you find on your feed to be the most engaging, and asking yourself why. Why did people react so well when I shared this type of content? How did I feel when I shared that type of content? Right? And so getting familiar with the IG dashboard will then solidify that that competitive analysis, that inner analysis that we've been talking about. Let's see. I felt like a fast shot. So I'm just going to do a quick review. We talked about discovering your why and the importance of that. We talked about the mirror effect and being able to, once you discover your why, it doesn't shift once you get into the digital world. We then talked about our fears, our skill sets, and the ability to turn the skill sets into profitable concepts or businesses, right? Once we're able to identify the why, we talked about developing a digital brand strategy, and then going into developing a content strategy and executing that content strategy. Are there any questions? And I'll hold here, any questions on what we've discussed so far? Yes, Kiana.
Thank you for all of this. I think it's been really helpful. I was kind of curious, what layer in your process do you account now for COVID restrictions, or things that you've kind of had to shift a little bit with people's attention spans and how things have kind of changed?
Do you mind, what layers in my process have had to pivot in terms of how I'm communicating my why, or?
Well, in all of your process that you've shared with us tonight, kind of taking us through the case study, has this always been the case, or is there any element of what you do that's had to kind of been filtered through this pandemic experience?
Yeah, I have a quite interesting, like, the pandemic experience has actually like strengthened all of the strategies. And I think it's because everyone is online. Everyone is online right now. And so where you have some people who are at one leg, like there's real life, and then they understand that there's this break between digital, but forcing everyone to be at home and almost dive into the digital world, I've noticed that there's been a need. I've had a lot more inquiries about, wait, I can't hide anymore, right? I can't pretend that I'm living this life that I'm not, because everyone's home. So literally, if I post an image that is not true to self, I will be outed. They will know. So I find that it's strengthening this need to be authentic and true to self. It's strengthening the mirror effect since the pandemic, because literally people have to be vulnerable. People will call you out if, hey, you're not there. No one's there. Why are you posting images on an island? You're not there. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answers your questions, but I found that I've actually just had to, since this pandemic, I've actually dived into the mirror work a lot more with individuals and helping people feel okay to be themselves online, like feel completely okay. And it dives into, if you don't feel okay being yourself online, maybe you're not feeling okay to being yourself in person. Or there's another route where people feel totally okay with themselves, but they want to protect themselves and they create an online persona. And those are two different routes. Whatever one works for you is going to be good, but make sure that it feels authentic and true to you. Carrying a brand, building a brand behind a facade that doesn't actually feel okay and good to your nature and honors your values is my main, is what I'm trying, is what I'm hoping for doesn't continue, because we have so many people following brands and companies who aren't necessarily true to who they are either. I hope that.
Yeah, it does. Like authenticity and vulnerability. Like I definitely see how that's highlighted during this time. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question.
Will we have access to these slides?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll email actually, and it'll be a little bit more condensed. I think this one dove into develop the digital. I'll add in content there as well, but I'll send it to the Fairmont Lab so that they can send it out. If you guys have any further questions too, I'll have my email as well if you want to, take these conversations to the next step. I'm interested in hearing from Slick, since she spoke out a little bit earlier.
Yes, this has been phenomenal. Definitely put a lot of things in perspective. So thank you so much for sharing. And I'll definitely be reaching out to you.
Yes, yes, yes. Was there anything that stood out to you the most or is lingering?
All of it, honestly, because I never really had any guidance towards branding, especially like, you know, within my craft. It's just kind of, you know, as far as like DJing and stuff, but thinking about more than music and what I can do with that. So definitely about like developing a strategy and the content and how to execute that has been great. And then definitely being more concrete with my why.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited to connect further.
Definitely. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And thank you everyone else for sharing. It's been great listening to everyone else's journey too.
And I see, do we have? Oh, awesome, Megan. Oh, Taj, I'm so happy that it was helpful. You know, guys, what's really great about this series that the Fairmont Lab is doing is that it's like a continuation series. So we have, after this, the second session is actually marketing plan basics. So it's going to be with Joyce Marie. So that's next Thursday. So I'm wondering if she'll dive a little bit deeper. But if you guys want to kind of go on this journey, I know I left you with some prompts. I'm going to leave my email here in the chat. And you can also CC L, which is our COO, in the chat, and maybe we can, you know, talk about how we can help you guys, even if it's through some consultations, 15, 30 minutes or an hour. We'll just make sure that in the subject line, you let us know that you came from the Fairmont Lab. We definitely want to be able to honor this experience and not leave you hanging like in any way, no type of cliffhangers. So we're hitting the 8 o'clock hour. I hope it was informative. I know it was compact. I wish I could dive a little bit into this even more, but I wanted to spend more time on identifying like who you are really, but it seems like everyone is here has a pretty solid step. So I hope that there was good takeaways on what to do with that next in terms of doing a competitive analysis and on both yourself and your competitors. I would love to follow up on how that process goes, but my biggest homework and takeaway for everyone here would be identify 3 competitors, watch their engagement, watch their actions, and then identify yourself, watch your engagement and watch your actions, and see what kind of insights you learn and how they can help solidify your strategies moving forward. Okay, y'all, it has been an ultimate pleasure. Super excited to stay connected with everyone, and thank you so much for joining our masterclass. Peace, y'all.